Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining Coffee with Mildred. This is Maria Erickson. I'm here tonight in the historic Birch Terrace restaurant, and I hope that I get to do more interviews here because the food is really good. In case you haven't been down lately, you should come on down and try it. Currently, Coffee with Mildred. Coffee with Mildred I started because I wanted to share local history, local stories with as many people as I could. And so by doing it on YouTube, I'm bringing people's kitchen tables and coffee breaks to you. And hopefully you get to enjoy the stories as much as I have had, as I've had a good time doing them. So tonight I am with Evelyn Larsen. Her sons are currently the owners of the Birch Terrace, which is kind of why we ended up here, but it's still a great place to come and eat. And so we're just gonna dive right in here. I am going to get set up. I am without my son Kai tonight, so I am producing as well as chatting, interviewing people. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to turn this around to Evelyn. All right, let's get you lined up here. There we go. All right, so try not to look at the, you can if you want, but it's okay. So Evelyn, how did your family come to be in Cook County?
Well, my dad and his family immigrated from Norway in 1895. And so I have lived here all my life. And my husband also lived here all his life.
Where were you each born?
I was born in Duluth, but I was raised on Maple Hill.
Okay.
And my husband was born in Grand Marais, and he lived in Grand Marais.
Okay, he was a town kid.
He was a town kid, yeah.
And you were a Maple Hill girl.
I was a little farmer's daughter.
So what was it like growing up on Maple Hill?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. When we were just little kids, we'd be bouncing from one neighbor to the other, and they were all just super, super nice. In my family, my mother died when I was 4. So my dad raised me. And all the neighbors were so good to us.
So how many kids were in your family?
In my immediate family?
Yeah, your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, okay. There was 5.
Okay.
An older sister died when she was only a week old. And then I had 3 older brothers. And then I was a baby. And my oldest brother was in the Navy.
And what was his name?
Harold.
Okay.
And the next older brother was in the Marine Corps. That was Norman. And the youngest brother, Glenn, was in the Army.
So how much older are they than you?
I think Glenn was like 13 years older than me. And then the other boys were closer.
So you were
I was
the baby.
I was the baby, and I was the only girl.
Yeah.
And my brothers were very good to me.
And what are your parents' names?
Christina and Jorgen Peterson.
Okay.
And my mother's maiden name was Everson.
Okay. Part of the Everson clan from Maple Hill?
Yes.
Oh.
Adolf Everson was my mother's brother.
Okay.
So we have lots of relatives.
I would say so.
On both sides.
Okay.
Yeah. Because my dad's family, there was also, I think there was 5 in his family. 2 girls, Mrs. John Nelson and and Mrs. Hans Gilbertson. And then there was Anton and my dad. And he also had a sister named Clara. She was the first person that was buried up on Maple Hill. She passed away when she was about 18.
Oh.
From TB, I thought.
Okay. So the first person in Maple Hill Cemetery?
Right, to be buried.
Huh. So where was your homestead?
Our homestead was on East Maple Hill.
Okay, give a little bit more description.
More description than that. Boy, you really go right down to the wire. It's between Rindals, who are up on the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and Berglund's or Elquist right below our place. Ours was in the middle of it.
Okay.
On County Road 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any part of the homestead still there?
Yes, I have Norman's son lives there, John.
Okay.
He lives on part of the original homestead.
Oh, okay.
So
very interesting.
it was.
So were you part of the whole, there was Maple Hill East School and Maple Hill West School?
Right. Well, by the time I came along, the west side had been closed down and it was just the east side.
Okay.
But when my dad came here, they started on the West Maple Hill School, and then the East School was built. Or the East.
You can
Oh my goodness! The East side built their school.
Mm-hmm.
But Maple Hill School was absolutely wonderful. I mean, it was like a big family.
Yeah, I've never met anyone who grew up on Maple Hill who doesn't talk about it like it's a big family.
It was. It was just, there was two rooms.
Mm-hmm.
First through 4 grades and 5 through 8 on the upper side. And so one teacher for each room.
Mm-hmm.
So first you'd have like math, then it'd be first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth. So you really got a good education that way.
Yeah.
You really did.
So do you remember who was in your class?
Oh, absolutely. There was 7 in our class, and we had one of the bigger classes. Years ago, the school was much bigger.
Yeah.
But there was 7 in our class. Shirley Kloster,
Mm-hmm.
Margaret Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
Helen Olson, Helen Powell, Carolyn Lindskog, me, and Bill Boisman. Bill was the only boy.
I was just going to say, weren't those all girl names?
And we used to fight with Bill every noon.
Oh.
And the crazy part was we just loved him.
Yeah.
And he'd come over to my house a lot of times and play after school,
Yeah.
But every noon we'd go out and we'd always have our little fights.
Yeah. Oh, fun. Now, in previous interviews, people have talked about the walking, like did you walk to school or was there a bus at that time?
No, there was a bus.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody walked. Yeah.
And the school was where George Carlson lives now. That was the old school?
Yeah. Well, the school was torn down.
Okay.
But that is School Hill Road. That's why it was named that.
Yep.
The sidewalk is still there. See that long sidewalk going up to the house? Yeah. It was a neat school, and we just had so much fun. And the teachers were just like mothers.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so good. Our first grade teacher was Ruth Edstrom, and she was fabulous. Just fabulous. Every Friday she'd say, "Put your heads down on your desk now," and she'd have a little treat for us.
Oh.
And it could have been anything from a homemade donut or cookies or candy. Or one time I remember she brought the whole class over to her house for hot cocoa.
Oh, fun.
It was just so personal and just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And Ruth Hedstrom, who did she belong to?
Ruth married Phil Hedstrom.
Okay.
And Ruth Ann is her daughter, and Stanley and Edward were their kids.
Yeah.
And of course, Phil was part of the mill and all that.
in 8th grade?
I think I'm not sure, but I think it was when to my memory, I think the 5th grade was the last grade that we had the school. Then the schools were consolidated, so we had to go to Grand Marais, and that was kind of trying at times. You know, we were from this little school where we had all this personal attention, but it was fine. It was fine. Yeah.
So, what are some memories from high school that you have?
I want to tell you a memory that I had from grade school.
Oh, okay.
In the 5th grade, get this now. Mrs. Albert Ingberg was our teacher, and her husband was superintendent of the primary schools at the time.
Okay.
But she was just fabulous. She actually taught us in 5th grade how to do our income tax.
Really?
Really. I kid you not.
Why? I mean, it's great.
It's great. And you know, that was the first time I ever realized that there was taxes on everything. And I can still remember one of the lessons she taught. She said, when you go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread, this much is for product, this much is for labor, and this much is for taxes. You know, I mean, what an education though.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff we did and we learned.
Yeah.
That was 5th graders.
I love it.
Yeah. I know. It was just really great.
Wow.
And then the whole history, you know, of the Maple Hill, we'd have at Christmas time, the school programs were just the highlight of the whole community. You'd just be tingling, you'd be so excited.
So what were the school programs like back then? I mean, did you?
Well, on the Maple Hill School, we had a stage per se at one end. It wasn't really a stage, but it was where we staged our plays.
Yeah.
And they always had a backdrop of boughs. So the whole back was covered with spruce boughs and stuff.
Oh, I bet it smelled great.
It did. And of course, everybody was in the play, you know, and they were, the major scene and all that. We sang carols and Santa Claus came. And it was just so exciting because we didn't do that much stuff at that time, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal.
Oh, I can just the wet clothes and the wood fire and the boughs, the smells of Christmas and winter, and
absolutely. And
I'm sure there were goodies.
Oh yes, always goodies. Yeah. Yeah, it was a great time to grow up.
Yeah. We could end now, and that would just leave me on a happy note. But we got to give them some more. Give the people more.
Got to give them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the highlights of our growing up years was always participating in 4-H.
Oh,
that was big. And Mildred-Evelyn Larsen was our 4-H leader.
Okay.
And she would have us come over to her house, and she would teach us how to bake bread, teach us how to do different things, you know.
Yeah. So what was your forte?
Baking bread.
Okay.
I actually won a trip to the state fair on my bread baking because I got first in our class, and that was huge.
Yeah.
First time I'd ever been to Minneapolis, and that was fun.
Who did you go with?
Well, it was a whole bunch of our county agent, who was Carol Campbell at the time, went with us, and there were other kids from here that went on different programs, you know. And then they had a great big 4-H place where everybody stayed. We were there for 5 days. It was just super, you know.
First time at the state fair.
First time at the state fair.
What's your best memory of the state fair?
The dancing.
Oh?
They had square dancing, and they had a lot of programs for the kids.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever went on any of the rides. I never did.
Yeah.
I loved going around looking at the exhibits, beautiful exhibits.
Mm-hmm. So going off of the dancing and coming back to Maple Hill now, was there dancing and music and gatherings like that?
Oh, yes. When they'd have the March of Dimes, and they'd always have usually a box social. Women would make up a lunch and pack it in a beautiful box and bring it, and then the men would have to bid on them.
Oh.
And the women would have to sit with whoever bought her box. So that was always kind of fun. We'd sit there, I don't want him to get it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then there'd be a dance, and that's what they do for the, to raise money for the March of Dimes.
Mm-hmm. And where would they hold that at?
At the school gym.
Okay.
The school gym was really a kind of a community center for us up on Maple Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I think they used to go there and,
yeah,
everything. So it was really good. And Martin Erickson was a janitor when we were there. We were always a little scared of him.
Well, yes, talk about Martin Erickson. It would be my father-in-law's dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
he was really good, but he could be stern looking. And he had kind of wrinkles on his head, and we think, that means you're really mad.
Yeah.
But he was fine. He was.
Anna Speck talks about him giving her a quarter when she would stay and help, I think, clean up.
Oh, could be.
Yeah, so she has very fond memories of.
Well, I do too, because, and I can remember that him and his wife had us over for Thanksgiving dinner that one time. I think it was Thanksgiving, and that's the way it was in those days. It was just really a lot of family, whether you were family or not.
Yeah, it was a lot of people just trying to survive.
Yep.
And doing it together.
Absolutely. If somebody was in trouble, everybody was there helping. Yep.
It's kind of unique that your dad, I mean, I guess I think of way back when, and a gentleman whose wife has passed away, and he's left with a 4-year-old girl, that he wouldn't try and remarry.
He never did.
No. And
he was a very good father. Probably better father than I am a mother, because well, for one thing, men look at things different than women do.
Yeah.
I can remember the neighbors coming over and they'd say, do you really let her do all that? Because I started cooking and baking when I was probably 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
Well, he'd say, how else is she going to learn?
Yeah. May as well do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, he was really good. Very, very good. And my brothers were good too. I was always getting them into trouble.
You were getting them in trouble?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my.
Well, you know how girls are. They instigate a lot.
No, it's all the boys. They're the instigators.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it was certainly a different time. And I do have a little write-up that my dad had done in 1956, I think it was. And he talks about when they came over from Norway in, 1895. And over there, his father was a superintendent of the railroads.
Oh.
Not every road. He was division supervisor. And like my dad said, over there, the railroads were owned by the government. So their house and their little farmette and everything was owned by the government. They got paid vacations. They had all their health care taken care of. They had they could travel throughout Norway and Sweden free, and the pensions over there were really good. But it seems so odd that they'd want to come over here when he was a little over 50 when he came. Would have been retired pretty soon. But he just thought that this was a wonderful place to be because it was just a sportsman's paradise. and like my dad said, the main reason they came was because the two older daughters were here and they wanted to be with family. But they just thought that this was so wonderful over here. They didn't have the restrictions of the government telling them where to live, what to do. And they had it really nice over there.
Yeah.
You know.
But they didn't own anything.
They didn't own anything, just their own personal things and, next to nothing. So just makes you stop and think. And in 1896, my dad's dad and Hans Gilbertson walked to Duluth and filed homestead papers.
Walked to Duluth from Grammary?
From Grammary, from Maple Hill.
I wonder how long that took them.
I don't know.
Because there was not really a road.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Can you imagine?
People would not dream of doing that.
No, and they were thrilled to do it.
Yeah. Wow. And when you applied for homestead, you got, wasn't that where you got like 160 acres?
I think so. Yeah. Because that's what they had. So I imagine that, So, yeah, it was a different time.
So let's jump to high school now.
Okay.
And is that where you met your husband, or did you meet him before? No.
No, I met him after. Well, I met him when I was in high school.
Okay.
But he was out of school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, high school was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Had a good time in high school, did you?
I sure did.
And what made it so fun, Evelyn?
Oh, the kids. We thought we were just really, really daring a lot of times in some of the stuff we did. And now when we look at what kids do.
So what did you think that was so daring that you?
Well, I can remember just one time that I think that I won't name the other kids because they all still live here. Skip school.
Okay.
For an afternoon.
Oh,
we thought we were going to get killed. I mean, we were so scared. We were scared of everything growing up. Scared of boys, scared of cars, scared of speed. I mean, it was, and that was probably a good thing. I'd say probably saved us.
Probably.
Because parents didn't really dote on the kids the way they do now. Because everybody was so busy.
Yeah.
There was stay-at-home parents, but they were working hard and,
Yeah.
So the kids grew up quicker. They really did.
Yeah, you had a lot more responsibility at an earlier age.
Yes. And then when I was 14, I got my first job waitressing at the bus depot.
Oh, and who owned the bus depot at that time?
Wally Lundquist. And he was a former Greyhound bus driver.
Okay.
And that was a fun job. The buses would come in from Canada, going to Duluth, coming back. They'd come in, you'd have about 15, 20 minutes to get everybody fed. So it was just fun.
Yeah.
Just fun.
And you waited tables, you said?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I thought it was just wonderful. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
So then every summer I would room in town with somebody.
Okay.
The first summer, I think my girlfriend and I, we stayed in the house that Sharon Eliason owns now, down by Lake Superior.
Right, next to the credit union?
Yeah.
Yep.
And there was a couple there that rented their upstairs rooms to us.
Okay.
$15 a month apiece.
Wow. And what do you figure you made waitressing at that time?
I got $13.75 a week.
Oh.
And we worked 7 days a week. And I don't even know how many hours, as long as we just stand up, I guess.
So what did you serve at the cafe?
Well, with the bus coming in the way it did, we served a lot of chili.
Oh.
And a lot of soup because that stuff was prepared.
Yeah.
And, you know, cooking in a restaurant wasn't fast like it is now.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much lots of sandwiches, and they did a good coffee trade there. It was a fun place to work.
Yeah.
But every summer I worked in town.
So where else did you work?
Well, the first year that Dunord was open,
What was Due Nord?
the Blue Water Cafe now.
Okay.
I worked there that summer, and that was, oh man, that was busy. That was probably the hardest restaurant I ever worked in, because that summer was really hot, and they had these big windows, and there was no air conditioning or anything, and it was so,
Yeah.
and that was a tough summer. It was, you know, it was good, but
Who owned that when you started working there?
when I started working there, I think Ray Schoberg owned the building, and I think it was his restaurant. But he had a manager from Minneapolis. His name was Rosner.
Oh.
That ran the restaurant that summer. And then Ray and Eleanor took over some years later.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I worked at Cafe 61, where my cousin ran that.
Which cousin?
Ruth Gilbertson.
Okay. And what was that where was that restaurant?
That restaurant, it was where Caldwell Banker is now.
Okay.
And that whole complex, the Eden was a hotel and a bar. And then it was Cafe 61. Then it was a barber shop and a hair place. And then at the very end was a big gift shop.
Wow. Who built that whole? I guess I didn't realize that complex was that old.
Oh, yeah. Mary Bawley and her sister, I think, owned the gift shop. Okay. They had beautiful stuff. I've got a lot of wedding gifts that came from there. And then in the barber shop, when I was there, the Bowers, Bernice Bowers, and her husband, Bernice was a hairdresser and her husband was a barber.
Oh.
They had the barber shop. And my cousin, Ruth Gilbertson, ran Cafe 61. And then some people from Chicago owned and ran the hotel and bar. I can't think of their names right now. I can see them, but I can't think of it.
Yeah.
So that was fun. She ran a wonderful restaurant. Everything was home cooked, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it tasted just like homemade. Well, it was homemade.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think when I worked there, I think we actually got like 40 cents an hour.
Ooh, you're really raking in the dough then.
Yes, we were in Seventh Avenue.
Yeah. Wow. So what did you do after you graduated?
Got married.
Okay.
I graduated the first part of June, got married the last part of June. I got married on the 25th of June, 1955.
To?
Hank Larsen. Hank Larsen was my first husband.
And only so far.
And only so far.
So, when did you and Hank start dating? I mean, did you date back then?
Oh, yeah, we dated probably for 2.5, 3 years before we got married. Because I was in high school. He was out.
Okay. And what was he doing with his life?
Well, when I first started going with him, he'd just gotten out of the service.
Okay.
And he was in Korea. And then he worked for the forestry for a little while. When we got married, he was working down at Silver Bay. And he couldn't stand the politics. Good money. Should have stayed there,
What was he doing?
He was a steel worker.
Oh, okay.
He was in the steel, tying steel.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't mind the work, but he couldn't stand the politics.
Mm.
And so he started working in the woods. And so the story goes. But he loved the woods.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved it. So.
Well, and he had some brothers that were very helpful to him in the woods.
Oh, yeah. Well, him and Lloyd went into partnership.
Okay.
And so they were the main loggers. Melvin had worked in the woods with him. And, well, before Hank started his own company, he worked for Marvin Soderlund in the woods.
Okay.
And, it was pretty freelance stuff at that time. But he absolutely loved working in the woods.
Who were his parents and then the siblings?
Hank's parents was Andrea and Hans Larsen.
Okay.
Andrea was an ID.
A what?
ID.
Is
John ID and Evelyn ID.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was a maiden name or a job, certain label.
No. Oh, gosh. And then Hans Larsen had a brother. They came from Norway too, but Hans was gone before I never knew Hans.
Okay.
I knew his mother, Andrea. She was a very nice lady.
Mm-hmm.
And Hank's siblings, well, Hank's mom had been married twice.
Okay.
So his older brothers, half brothers, Stanley Smith, Jules Smith, Melvin Smith, and then his half sister, Eileen Burke. And then she married Hans Larsen. And then it was his oldest brother, Bernie Larsen, his sister, Laura Ranning. Roger Larsen was his younger brother, and Lloyd Larsen.
Oh. How many babies did she have in total?
8 or 9, something like that. Yeah. Big families were pretty prevalent at that time.
Yeah. So the Larsen brothers, he logged with some half siblings too, right?
Jewel worked there for a while.
Okay.
Stanley never did. Stanley was with the forestry.
Okay.
And Roger worked for Thorson most of the time.
Okay.
He worked with Hank for, sometimes too, but and then Bernie had worked for Midway Service all his time after he got home from the service. So it was Lloyd and Hank that had the business finally, and they had, at one time they had up to about 20 workers.
Oh my.
And so that was a job.
Yeah.
It was a job.
So you were also, you sort of helped with the business.
Yes, I did. I helped with the bookwork and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But you had your own pack of boys to raise at home.
Sure.
At the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And then did you keep working as well?
No.
Outside of the home during that?
No. Once in a while I'd work. Well, I worked a couple of summers waitressing when the boys got older.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I was at home mother until Hank's health started going downhill. He had arthritis, just simply terrible. And so I knew I had to do something to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got into real estate.
And when was that?
Well, let's see, it was I was 44 when I went into it. So it's been about 38, 39 years ago.
That kind of stuck with you for a while there.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the logging stories that Hank used to. They kind of had all kinds of shenanigans they would do in the woods.
Oh yeah, well, I can't even remember them. We had a good time though. He had some guys that were shackers.
What are shackers?
Shackers are the guys that stay in the woods. They stay right on the job site.
Mm-hmm.
They were the forerunners of the little houses. Because that's what they had. They had little houses.
Yeah.
And so on the weekends, we'd have to bring groceries up to them. And the kids always loved going up there because they loved visiting with the shackers, and the shackers were so cute. They really were. Anything you did for them, they just appreciated so much.
Yeah.
They really did. I remember David one time when he was about 3. went up to this one shack. It was Wesley Warren's shack. And Wesley he just loved kids. He said, "Oh, David, how are you?" And David was just big eyes, and he looks around and he says, "Wesley, where are your toys?" Just little stuff like that. It just made your day.
Yeah. Oh, for cute.
Yeah.
So what kind of equipment did they have for?
Oh, good grief.
When they started out? I mean, I know there's lots of equipment over the life, but
when they started out, they had very crude skidders, power saws, and shovels.
Shovels?
Well, you'd have to shovel the snow out to cut the trees.
Oh, I suppose.
I mean, it was pretty primitive.
Yeah.
And those guys worked so hard. And they worked through all kinds of weather. I don't know how they did it. I really don't. It was just unreal.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
It's addictive.
They loved it.
Yeah.
Hank looked at a tree like you'd look at a diamond.
Yeah.
Wow.
This will be great to cut down. And
here's how. It was just, well, and if you went out on the logging sites, it's peaceful. Mm-hmm. You're out there with Mother Nature.
Well, and Mother Nature would just kind of walk through any time, too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What
areas did they log? I mean, I know, again, all over, but...
Yeah, there were so many. I think the boys could tell you better which areas. I think one of the worst ones, probably the longest ones, was up at, what do they call it now? Can't remember what it was called. It was one site up the Gonfalon Trail that was really, really bad. They were up there for probably 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is bad.
Well, it was way up there, and it was such a hard site to log. Mm-hmm. The terrain up here isn't exactly level, in case you haven't noticed.
Right. Well, that reminds me too of the speaking of level, when you were on Maple Hill. Like I look at pictures of when my husband was little and growing up on Maple Hill. It was like field.
Yeah.
Everywhere. That I assume that the people, who had immigrated here had cleared to make fields for farming and that kind of thing. And
right. And then when everybody was farming, the cows would graze on all the land, and it was really something.
Yeah. Wow. And now a lot of it is all grown up. And
I know it. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure is. Different world out there.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Well, is there anything that I haven't asked you? Oh, we haven't even hardly been doing this at all.
No.
Is there anything I haven't asked you, though, yet that I should?
I don't think so. I think you've been doing very well.
So what was it like raising kids growing, you were in town?
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. We specialized. We stuck with the boys.
Yep.
And I don't know, they were always fun. In our first house, the neighborhood was just loaded with kids. There was probably 25 kids there all the time.
Where was your first house?
It was right. Well, do you know where Daryl Rosebuckle lives?
Nope. Oh, wait, down on 7?
Yep.
Okay.
Right across from there. And the house that Dick Dorr lived in for so many years, that was our first house. We built that.
Oh, okay.
When we first got married.
Yeah.
And we lived there for 13 years. And then we moved because the lot was just too small. And at that time, Hank, we had a lot of equipment and stuff he had to bring in every once in a while. No place to put it. So that's why we moved when we did. But in that neighborhood, it was probably 25 kids there all the time. So the kids just had a ball.
Oh yeah, in and out of
In and
everybody's
out,
house.
yeah, and it was, I remember one time I was scrubbing the floor and I hear the door open. It was in the summertime, and pretty soon I hear the cupboard door open, and then I heard the cookie jar open. I said, Brian, get out of the cookies. I'm not Brian, I'm Bobby. One of the neighbor kids. And that's the way it was.
Yeah. Oh, for fun.
Yeah.
Is that the road? Did Quick live on that road too?
Bernie Quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived right up above.
Okay. Yeah. At the end of that road.
Yeah. But there was all the Johnson kids, you know.
Which Johnson kids?
Donald and Grace Johnson.
Okay.
You know, Johnson and the Larsen kids, all of them. And then there was the Humphrey kids, and there was Ola's kids, our kids, McKelvey kids, Dr. Soderberg's kids. I mean, there was kids all over, you know, and it was just a great place to. And the kids were always energetic. They wanted to be outside playing, and it was always a ball game going or something going all the time.
Fun.
And then when the boys got into high school and went out for track, we always used to go to all the track meets, and that was just a blast. You know, so we followed the track for years. It was fun.
Yeah. Certainly made your way around.
Oh yeah. Well, you're always busy.
Yeah.
But a good busy.
Mm-hmm.
Good busy.
And you're involved with church.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And was that something?
We were very involved when the kids were younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a real area of community gathering.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and at that time, most of the mothers were home and stuff. So, you know, our ladies' aid groups and stuff, that was our social outlet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really was. And now it's hard to get volunteers for that, any of that stuff. Well, they don't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a lot of bazaars and do a lot of that stuff. And that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was something the whole families could be involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had a troop of little Boy Scouts. That was fun, except I'm not very good at crafts, and that drove me crazy. You're supposed to be making all these wonderful things out of it. But I like the kids.
Yeah.
But I like the kids.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
That's what they got most out of was something good to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah.
So what else?
Yeah, what else is there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You got I know now that you are into politics, local politics.
A little bit.
A little bit. Was that always something that you were interested in, or?
Yeah, I guess I was to a certain degree. You know, my dad was on the working community, and just always said, you know, try to make things better. Mm-hmm. And Walt Minowski actually got me interested in politics because he could. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And it was okay. Still a lot of hard decisions on the planning board, though. You're you know, maybe you make somebody happy, but somebody else is not going to be happy. Mm-hmm. But then, I don't know, somebody got me involved in. I was always pushed into this stuff. I really wasn't going to get
right. Sure you were.
I was. But they talked me into running for council, and I did. And I was on council I was on the planning board for 13 years. And I was a city councilor for 8 years. And then I was out of it completely for a couple of years because Hank got really sick and went through quite a bit of just home health care and trying to take care of my business. Mm-hmm. And then I ran for mayor for that one term. I really didn't want to run. I don't didn't want to be a mayor. I really didn't. I mean, I got very strong opinions of what I want done, but being a mayor wasn't what I really wanted to do. But I just got talked into it. So I ran. It was okay. I ran again. I lost the second time, and that was kind of a relief. I liked being on the city council because there you get all the problems and you get to work on them.
Yeah.
And it's not the pouring tea and that kind of stuff. Is that I just don't. I think it's overstated.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not a politician.
You want to get in there and do things to fix it and problem solve.
Right. Well, I mean, that you get some satisfaction out of that.
Yeah.
You know. So, so I think I've served my sentence on that. So.
You don't have to go back.
Nah.
All done.
All done.
Yeah. Other than still giving your opinion.
Oh, yes.
Yes. That you're willing to give at any time.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Let's go back to Maple Hill and talk about Anna and Gladys.
Okay. They were our next door neighbors, you know.
Okay.
And they used to come over to the house and play and stuff. My mother played the piano. She was very good.
Oh.
And, you know, in those years, people had to entertain themselves.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember Anna and Gladys, they appeared on one radio show. I think it was KEL in Duluth.
Oh.
And I don't remember whose show it was on, but they sang a duet. And that was exciting for the whole community, you know.
Yeah.
We all sat by our radios, listened to it. And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
And they were Eversons.
They were Eversons.
And
their dad was my mother's brother.
Right.
Adolf.
And he married who again?
Celia Johnson.
Okay. And then how many siblings did they have? They were from a big family.
Oh, yes.
Everybody was.
Yep, they had it. Let's see, there was Oscar, Anna, Gladys, Gerald. Wally's the youngest. Anna's the oldest and Wally's the youngest. And they're both still alive and everybody else is gone.
I know. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I got to get up and talk to Anna.
Yeah. Oh, she's fun. Anna's a fun person. And Anna's the same now as she was when I was growing up.
I believe
really.
Yeah.
And somebody else that was that way was Mabel Lindsay. She looked the same to me when she died as she did when I was a little kid.
And that would be Eleanor's mom, right?
Yep.
Some people can just do that.
I know it. It's just, yeah. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Nice.
In the wintertime, us kids would slide all the time. We'd come in, throw our lunch bucket down out the door, we'd go slide until dark. And, you know, all the kids would just congregate. We must have walked miles and miles because nothing was close.
Yeah.
You know? And nobody hauled their kids around. If you wanted to go somewhere, you walked.
Yeah. You were on your own. You could go, but you were on your own.
That's right.
Yeah, and walking in the dark.
Yeah.
You know, people need all kinds of lights and things now if they're going to walk when it's dark. And
yeah, and if the stripes aren't painted in the right spot, they stop. They don't know what to do.
Right. When did you learn how to drive?
The tractor. Oh,
you got
tractor.
Oh, so your dad let you do boy things too.
Oh, yes. Oh, I was a tomboy.
Okay.
Definitely a tomboy. Yeah, that's when I learned how to drive. And then from then on, I learned on the pickup.
So when did you get your first car?
My first car?
Yeah.
Well, I never had a car myself.
Yeah.
I mean,
It just wasn't something that
no.
people had, especially not girls, I don't think.
Well, there was no money for it. I mean, the family had a car and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But mostly you just had to walk, even though there was a car, once you knew how to drive.
Oh yeah, I mean, you didn't take the car and just drive around and
Yeah. Just drive around and look at stuff.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what other places in town? What other stores were in town when you were growing up?
Well, where the Legion is now, that was a nice restaurant. That was called Lesage's Restaurant when I was little.
Okay.
And I can remember my dad and my aunt and uncle went in Lesage's for pie and coffee after attending the show on Sunday afternoon, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Hedstrom and Ruth came in. And I said, Dad. He says, what? There's my teacher. He says, yeah. And she's with a man. And Dad says, well, that's all right. And I said, it is? Because she was my first grade teacher. And I didn't think that they...
Right. They were not married or
No. And I don't know if the rule was at that time that teachers couldn't be married or not, but there was a rule at one time that, teachers couldn't be married, I guess.
Huh. I wonder what the reasoning for that rule was.
I don't know.
I'll have to look that one up.
So anyway, that was a restaurant. And then when that restaurant closed, Gamble's store went in. And I remember my dad says, he said, we got to go to the new Gamble store. And so we walked in and I looked around and I said to my dad, well, I don't see any gambling in here. And Eb Bushman's dad was the owner.
Okay.
And he laughed. He thought that was so funny.
So what did Gamble's sell?
Hardware.
Okay.
Hardware and paints and varnishes. And then there was a co-op grocery store. Gene Bushman's dad ran that when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a show hall. And we had, in later years, we had a nice little hamburger shop where the El Rey is now, I think.
The El Rey?
Or on this side of it. The El Rey is here, and then I think there was a little hamburger shop right in there across from the Legion.
Okay.
The old Legion, where it was the Legion years and years ago.
Right, that was where Picnic and Pine was, and the attic, and
right.
Yeah,
Picnic and Pine. That was a florist shop in the. Well, they didn't have flowers at that time either. They had photograph. That's where Milford Humphrey had his photo shop.
Yeah.
Pictures, and he had a little gift shop there too, I think. So I remember he did all the school pictures for many, many years.
Oh.
And let's see. And then, of course, where the new bank is, that was the grocery store, of course. That got burned. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was...
that's where Security State Bank is now.
Yeah.
Used to be IGA.
Yeah. And before that, it was Norman Tofty and Ed Tofty's ran that. That was their store years ago.
Oh.
And what else we had a roller skating rink outside of town.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, that was fun. Love that. Love that.
Good time.
Yeah.
What about the movie theater? Was there a movie theater in town? Yeah.
Right.
How many people did you ever go there?
Oh yeah. I didn't go a lot, but we went,
How many people could sit in there?
I don't know. It was pretty big,
Mm-hmm. I wish I could have gone in there. It was all like infested or something.
Yeah. Just random. And then, the Langs had an apartment up above there where they lived.
Okay. And did he live there until like he was very, very old?
I think so. Well, both him and Irene did,
Okay. Because I would occasionally see him come out of the doors there and was like.
Yeah, I don't think they ever lived any other place.
Okay.
They had a cabin up at Devil's Track, but that wasn't their main, place. And what else was in town?
When did Joins start?
Long before me.
Yeah, I was doing the math in my head. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I just saw a thing for like 75 years of Joins.
Yeah, it's got to be beyond that now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if they're close to 100 years.
I bet you they're in their 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was trading post, was a trading post when I was growing up. My brothers used to sell weasels and that kind of stuff to them. They were always buying furs.
Oh, wow.
And they had a little tiny grocery store and a little gift shop. And that's where the Johnsons were,
Oh. Which Johnsons?
The one that owned this place.
The Birch Terrace?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Anna Johnson was her name. She was the artist.
Oh, okay.
And she was the nicest person. When I was a little kid, I'd go in there with my dad, and she'd always give me something.
Oh.
Little candies or little toy or something. Just really sweet. She was an artist, very good. Well, you've seen her stuff down at Heritage.
Yep. Yeah, no, her paintings are very warm and fairy tale.
Yeah, she taught Helga Moe how to paint. And I've got a painting, a still life of theirs that Helga had done for all of the relatives when they got married.
Oh, okay.
And they're just beautiful, just really pretty.
Wow.
So lots of talent around.
Yeah, for sure. Well, any final memory that you can think of that you would like to share?
Well, I don't think so. I'm sure everybody's sleeping by now anyway.
I don't think so.
Oh, I kind of think so.
I think you did a wonderful job. You're going to think of about 10 things after I turn the computer off, of course.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, I will wrap it up then. Thank you for joining us this evening. Again, this was Coffee with Mildred. Tonight was Evelyn Larsen, who I always with. Join us if you like this programming. Hit like and subscribe on the channel so you can be notified whenever I have a new one coming up. To become a member of Cook County Historical Society, to support this and be a sustaining member, please go to cookcountyhistory.org and hit the Join Us tab. We would love to have you be a part of our community that is helping to honor the past and enrich the future. So thank you again. Have a good evening, everyone. Next Tuesday at 7, I have no idea yet who's going to be the next interviewee. I need to get on top of that. But join me again. We'll be back at 7 on Tuesday. Have a good night.